What on earth? Ah, AJ, thank you so much for letting me know about that. Ah, why did it change the microphone to some weird setting? Oh, how obnoxious. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, guy from Mars, I'm glad you're here too. Thanks, everybody, for letting me know about the sound. So, all that I just said for the last 19 minutes was completely muted. It's just me flapping my gums. Gosh, okay. Well, anyway, so I'm leaning towards the add to array optimistic. I'm going to show you the code in a second. So I think set is the ideal choice because it does enforce uniqueness and it kind of wraps that for me. But it is the slowest add operation, the slowest write. So let's look at the code real quick. I'll kind of show you my methodology for benchmarking. And benchmarks.net is pretty cool. So this is all I had to do for benchmark is I just say it's a console program and it runs a benchmark class. So the benchmark class is called set versus list versus array. And so I have a bunch of setup here. Kind of read all that. I kind of went over this already, but list is like an abstracted data structure that uses a single couch-based document behind the scenes, and it's of the form array of items. So it could be array of objects, or in my case, array of strings, which might have an impact on this as well. Because these list and set might be a lot more interesting, a lot more useful for less primitive objects. But in my case, it's just string. And so set is also an abstracted single JSON document, but duplicate entries not allowed, which is why I think this is an ideal choice, because this will not ever add a duplicate, even if I do some coding wrong or screw up a validation check. This will still catch that behind the scenes. And then array add unique, which is non-abstract. This is a lower level sub-document operation to add array to a document. And it doesn't have to be this form. It could just be a raw array like those other ones up here. And then each item is a string. So my benchmark idea was I'm going to construct each one of these documents. So this is 3 total documents in Couchbase. Fill them with 200 randomly generated usernames. And then next step is to pick 40 of those and then add 10 more new ones that aren't in the list, because I want to test that condition too. I want that to be part of the benchmark. The list of 50, and then 50 iterations run these benchmarks. So this is a bunch of setup to create the 3 documents, list, set, and array key document. Fill them with some pre-existing data, and then pull a bunch of random ones to do a search for, to do the lookups. And then here's some code to generate a username, just a random string. So these are the actual benchmarks. So find in list is going to pick a username from that list, and then does the list contain that? This is actually what I'm mainly benchmarking here. Of course, there's some overhead involved here, but that's no problem. So you can see this is a very simple API. It's a very simple abstraction over a single document to say, does this list contain a username? Same thing down here in the set, does it contain the username? Now, when I get to the lower level operations, it's more code for me to write. So I have to now grab the document, turn it into a C# object, and look for that string in the array there. Then I do the add. So this is, again, very simple. Set, add, async. Now, when I get to list, this is a problem, because list does not do any enforcing of unique values. So what I decided to do is say, well, does the list have the item? So just do the check myself. And if it doesn't, then add it. The problem with this is that there's no locking involved here. As far as I know, this list API does not allow me to do any locking. So therefore, there's a possibility of a race condition here. I could say, is the user in that list? And then if they're not, in between these 2 lines, the user could get added to that list. It's definitely a possibility. But I think that was fine in terms of just benchmarking. And then the add to array optimistic. So optimistic locking. So we're going to talk about some locking today. Who's excited for locking? Woo! Optimistic locking says, well, we won't explicitly lock it, we'll just do a soft lock, which means I get a document, and in the document there's something called a CAS value. And this CAS value is like an arbitrary value. It's like a string or a number. It doesn't matter what it is. But I make changes to the document after I get it, and then I try to push those changes out to Couchbase. Now, I will also send the CAS value that I got out to Couchbase. And that means Couchbase is going to look at my CAS value and look at the CAS value of the document that's out there and say, if those match, then the document hasn't changed. So we're good to go. And I'm just going to add the username to an array there. Now, if the document has changed, this is going to cause an error, an exception. It says, hey, the document's changed. CAS values don't match anymore. So then I have to, in my code, I have to do some sort of retry, probably, in this case, a retry. And there's a risk there, because if the document is getting high contention, is getting hit a lot, updated a lot, then I could retry a dozen times or more, potentially, and it's not ever going to match the CAS. So the risk here with optimistic locking is if it's a high contention document, this could result in errors and problems. The other option is pessimistic locking. Here I'm saying specifically get and lock it. No one else can touch this document except for me. And the only way I can unlock it is by using that CAS value. Now, this has a timeout as well, so after 30 seconds it gets automatically unlocked because you don't want it to be deadlocked forever. The trade-off here is that it's more work. It's more expensive. It's slower. And but the benefit here is that even if it's a high contention document, I only have to do this once. It's not going to result in a bunch of retries or anything. So you can see kind of the difference here between optimistic and pessimistic. It's about, I don't know, 2 times slower to do an add in pessimistic world. But it's still not as bad as the add to set up here, which kind of makes me wonder, like, what else is add to set doing that I'm not doing that causes this extra overhead? So I'm leaning towards this, but I also think I might want to start with a set just because it's doing a lot of that work for me. It's simple, and I can change it later. I can change to one of these other methods later. Okay, so let's write some code, okay? But today I wanted to do something different. I wanted to, and I think I said this while I was muted, I want to let GitHub Copilot do all the work today as much as possible. So what do I want GitHub Copilot to do? I want it to create an endpoint. Let's zoom in a little bit here. I want it to create a handler. I want it to create a user data service method. I want it to create unit tests. And I want it to create an integration test. And possibly create migration as well for the underlying data. We'll see how well it'll do all these things. I kind of want to just let it do everything, and then we can go back and look to see how much do I have to change, how far along, what percentage of the work did GitHub Copilot do for me. Okay, and the great thing about Copilot is why I'm choosing to use Copilot for this is that, as best as I can tell, Copilot is able to look at the entire solution that's in Visual Studio and start using that as a baseline for building code for me. So let's start with an endpoint, I think. User controller. So let's go back up here. And I have this spec from the Conduit project. Let's open this and say, create a endpoint action in user, is it users controller? Let's put these side by side. In users controller with this spec. Okay, and I'll just paste in those 3 lines of spec from the Conduit documentation. Let's see what it comes up with. Today's mug is that conference again. Delicious that conference coffee mug. Okay. So it looks like it's created the whole controller here. It's got all the usings and everything. I don't know why mock is in there and NUnit. Is it also running a test for me? Looks like it did write a test for me. I didn't want to test. Let's try this again. Okay. Create a controller endpoint point action in user's controller that follows this spec. And why it's creating a unit test, which is kind of interesting. It's creating unit tests first. Maybe it's doing test-driven development itself. Okay. Again, it's creating a test. What are we doing here, GitHub? I don't want to test. Not a unit test, a controller action. Okay, I don't know why I got hung up on a controller on test. So this is interesting. So look at this. It not only created an endpoint, follow user endpoint with the username, following the spec, and there's the post and authorize as well. It figured that out. Pretty impressive. It also looked at what I did in terms of comments, and it put in, I don't know if this is the right URL. It might be because I posted that in the chat. The same sort of comments and documentation that I've been writing this whole time. So I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to paste it into user's controller. Okay, pretty great. Now, I know that this doesn't exist yet, right? But that's going to be the next thing we create. Create the follow user request class. All this is taking in is the username and the username that I'm following. So it's interesting. I think this might be backwards, but that's okay. We're gonna keep going. Create the follow user request class. Okay. So let's just copy this, and we're going to go over to handlers, create a new class there, follow user request, and just paste that in. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And again, I'm not sure about these username and follower username, but looking pretty good. Okay, and now create the follow user result. I should have said class, but I think you'll probably get it. And it's doing pretty good about following my conventions and what I've been doing so far. User not found and profile. Let's move this into its own class. Okay. And so what is not pictured here, but what I needed to do next is create a follow user handler. And let's see what it comes up with if I just say that. Just saying create a follow user handler. Oh, I spelled it wrong. But it corrected my spelling. So let's see what it's going to do here. Follow user handler. Oh, that's not it. Copy. Okay. So what it's done here, unfortunately, it's brought in Conduit DB context. So that's probably, it's saying, oh, you probably want to use Entity Framework, and I don't want to do that. So let's try this again. Be a little more specific. Create a follow user handler, spell it right this time, that uses the user data service. Okay. What's it come up with now? Okay, so I'm just going to copy this whole thing. And paste it in here. So what do we got here? User data service. So that exists. And so it's decided to put async on the method names, which maybe I should have done that. But There we go. Follower and user. And if user is not null, or if user is null, then return user not found. So that's probably incorrect. Profile. So it's getting the profile, and then it's following the user. So that's probably what it's going to look like, with a few quibbles there. Okay, so far, it's created a endpoint. Check. Check. Put a little check there. And created a handler. Let's just say check minus. Whoops, wrong check. Check minus. We haven't created the user data service method yet. So the methods it needs to create might already be there. These might already be there, but let's create that. Create the follow user async method in user data service using a Couchbase set from the Couchbase.NET SDK version 3. Now I want to be specific on version 3 because I know that these models are kind of stuck in 2021, generally speaking. I'm not sure about GitHub exactly. But there are a lot of examples of Couchbase SDK 2 out there. That was the SDK for a long time. And so because this is kind of an older data set, Couchbase SDK version 3 is not quite as popular. So if I'm being more specific, then it'll probably give me a better quality implementation. So let's see how it goes. So let's go over to the user data service and just paste in this method right here. Now I haven't been using the async convention yet, so I probably want to just call this follow user. It's interesting that it's got user as objects, and it's figured out this scopes and collections kind of because the buckets are in there. And this is kind of interesting. It's that it's recording both followers and following. Now, why would I want to have following? I think this is not part of the Conduit spec, so I don't need that. But say Twitter, if you click on, I want to know who my followers are, and I want to know who I'm following. You want to know both things. So potentially this is a way of tracking that situation. Now I don't need to do that for Conduit spec, but that's kind of smart that it's generated that for me. And this other stuff with bucket, default collection, it's not quite right. It's close, but it's not quite right. It doesn't know that I've created a named provider down here, or hasn't figured that out. So user data service method, we're going to give that a check minus minus. Not quite as good. Okay, so I think before I create unit tests, though, I want to make sure this code is right. Because otherwise unit tests are going to be wrong as well. So let's start again, back to the endpoint. So what is this doing? It's getting the auth header, passing it into the get token from header, yep. And this is the follower username. That's not quite right. This is the current username. And that's coming from a claim result and value, okay. And then username is we'll call this user to follow. Whoops. User to follow. Well, it matches username here, so let's just stick with that. So with follow user request, this should be called user to follow. Yep. Test. No. Don't do anything like that. No. What are you doing? Don't change it anywhere else, okay? Hopefully it didn't. And this will be following user name. Okay? So a little more descriptive in what those characters are. Okay? And if the user is not found, return user not found. Yes. So let's go and double check. So I don't think 404 is the correct thing for the endpoint here. It should be, it doesn't say anything about the errors there, but not found. Okay, yeah, maybe not found is correct. If user not found, 404. Unauthorized, and request maybe valid user not permissions. Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I'm using that very much. Unauthorized, yeah, okay. So is it 200? Yep. Returns the followed user's detailed profile. Yeah, I think that's correct. Is this the right URL for the spec? It is, so that's great. Follow a user, returns a profile. For username, username of the user to be followed. Okay, pretty good. I think I'm happy with that. If user not found. Okay, great. Now let's get into the handler. So let's look at the request. We just updated that. That's good. And there is the result. That looks good too. What about the handler? So it thinks there's all these namespaces that there aren't. What is this doing here? Oh, that's interesting. Did I copy and paste that namespace in there? We'll stick with that. I don't know what these globals are. Yes, IDA service. Okay, interesting. I've got them mixed up here. Namespaces and usings. Okay, so it needs to. What it's doing here is it's getting the follower user and it's getting the user to follow. It's actually it's the other way around. Following user. It should be, whoops, user to follow. But the thing is, I don't necessarily need to get the user out of this. I don't need to check the database to see that the user making this request actually exists. Because that's kind of already been done by just pulling the user from the JWT. So I think that's kind of useless. Since I already have the user name, that's all I really need to do the creation. So I do need to check to make sure that the user I want to follow does exist, because potentially this API could put any arbitrary username string in there. And so I've got this stuff here. There is no cancellation token on that. There probably should be, but this is just to confirm that the user actually exists. Now, I don't think I need any more validation other than this. It's really the only thing I need to validate. Might want to check that the user is not null or empty. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So create a validator for follow user request. So I can see if ChatGPT can generate that too. Create a Fluent validator class. Okay. User to follow is null. That's not correct. So it's actually going to be a data service result. So user to follow, let's call this user to follow, whoops. User to follow result dot status equals not found. Then I want to say not found. Okay. Profile view model. So this is not going to be username. It's going to be data result username. Data result bio. Data result image. Is that correct? So profile is username, bio, image, and following. Username, bio, image, following. So following is going to be true in this case always, because I'm now following this user. So no need to do any calculation there. I just need to do it. Napalm codes. It is Friday. Yes, it is. I'm looking forward to a very fun weekend, which reminds me, I won't be streaming on Tuesday. I will be out of the office. No office hours on Tuesday. Back on Friday. And the week after that, I'll be at that conference. So I likely won't be streaming that whole next week either. So this might be the last stream. No. Next Friday I'll be streaming, but not the Friday after that. So, yeah, it's starting to get to a busy travel part of the year for me. So I'll be doing 3 or 4 conferences and additional user groups. So busy travel time for me. I won't be doing as much streaming, unfortunately. But yes, right now, just that Friday on the brain, ready for a nice weekend. Okay, so there's the profile. I really don't need to construct that until after I do the follow user. So follow user, user to follow results. I don't know if that's probably fine. This is going to be data result username, and the following user is request. Oh, hey, gosh, you startled me there. Ambatulam, thank you for the follow. And while I'm at it, let's give a shout out to a couple other follows. Retran in the Netherlands followed about 17 hours ago. Thank you for that follow. Mira Kuruhito also followed about 11 hours ago. So thank you for that follow. But Ambatulam, thank you for the follow. I'm glad you're here. What's going on with you this Friday? Throw a message in the chat there. Say hi to everybody. I'm glad you're here. So with this request dot following username and request dot username user to follow. Let's just do that. So now I have a follow user method in the data service. Oh, it needs to be on the interface as well. I didn't tell Chat or GitHub Copilot about that. So user to follow, following username. So these are supposed to be strings. Don't need to pass in the whole object. And cancellation token. Okay, so this needs to be part of this. And hello, are you coding? Yes, I am coding. This is what I do. I am coding. So you just need to eat that, huh? Copilot, isn't it just table stakes? Cost of doing dev biz now. You know, that's what we're trying to determine here. I think it can be very, very helpful. And so far, it's gone a long way. I mean, what would be your impressions, Napalm? How much of this have you watched? I've always been saying 80-20. So this is getting me 80% of the way there, and then I need to tweak 20% to make sure it is doing the right thing. But yeah, I think it's becoming, and you know, I can't see the future, but it's becoming another must-have tool. So when I first learned about a ReSharper in Visual Studio, it was a big revelation for me. Like, it can do all this stuff for me. It can save me all this typing, all this time, and can be more precise and accurate. It can run tests right in Visual Studio. And I think GitHub Copilot is kind of doing the same thing. It's a useful tool that's kind of a must-have. Although the way you phrase it, you want to eat that. You just eat that, huh? It makes it sound like you're not super enthusiastic about having to do that. So one thing that this is not doing is not returning any sort of data. This method here, and I don't think it needs to. You hate subscriptions. Oh, I see. Well, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. It is an extra subscription cost. That may not always be the case, but it is an extra subscription right now. You know, the alternative is I've been using ChatGPT on this stream. Well, it's not. Was it chat.openai.com, which has a free version, right? Which, as I've shown, is not as good as the ChatGPT 4 and the ChatGPT Plus. But yeah, I think it's valuable. I think it's going to help you be more productive and help you solve problems, and it certainly helped me. And if we're talking for your personal use, maybe that's why you don't want to pay for a subscription, but certainly your employers should definitely consider the value of that and spring for that for you. Napalm codes, I think I will probably have to do it though. What I would really like is a version of Copilot I could use that doesn't send information for training the model like the biz license does. I can't just buy the biz license for myself. So that being the case, I can't use it for work, only personal stuff. Yeah, I understand. I understand. Well, and we don't know how these are all going to shake out in the long run. Like, is this going to be, what information is it sending? What is it not? Versus, you have to pay for different license, different types of subscriptions, all those sorts of things. So that is all need to shake out. I'm really just focused on the efficacy of it at this point, and all those other consequences I will leave for, GitHub, Microsoft, OpenAI. They're going to make those decisions based on feedback. Okay, so the profile can be constructed just from this data right here. So there's no reason for this to have to return that profile. So I think I'm happy with that as it is. Okay, now the data service itself. This is where I need to make changes. So what I'm going to do is still get the collection. So the question is, where do I put these documents? Do I put them in the users collection? I think probably, if I was in the relational world, I'd put them in a separate table. So I could do that here as well. And that's going to make, I think I should definitely do that, because I know there's a SQL queries here that interact with that. And if I have two different types of documents in the same collection, it's going to make this query more difficult to write. So I'll put this in its own collection, which means probably this belongs in a separate class, because I'm not actually interacting with the user document at all, which means it probably belongs in a different slice as well. So that might be a chance to finally create a separate slice. So I'm going to call this follow controller. And let's go and move that endpoint out of here. API profile, yep, okay. Let's take this out of here. Put it in here. Okay. So it still needs the auth service. Makes sense. And still needs mediator. Not users controller. Follow controller. So that's all good. So that stuff comes out of here. Good. All right. And we're going to make a, yeah, I want to make a whole new folder called follows. Put follow controller in there. Yes. Just namespaces, yes. So we're finally into the second slice. And so I need to create that probably needs to go into a controllers folder. Although it seems like I really only one controller per slice. That may change in the future. I don't know. Okay, a handlers folder. What are you doing here? Great folder, handlers. And I'll put the follow stuff into that. Yes, and yes. And for services, I will call the auth service. Yeah, that's fine. I don't need the auth service for this handler at all. Yeah, okay. And we'll call this follow data service. No, not another folder. No, stop. Okay, there we go. What? Okay, follow data service. Okay. And put follow user over there. Okay. And I will likely need to put a, let's go and create the interface as well. Public interface, I follow data service. Follow data service. Okay, so this fella goes over there. Right there. And this implements this. Okay. So user data service I'm going to leave alone, basically. I'm not going to touch it. It's going to need a constructor, but we'll come to that later. So right here, constructor. Yep. Yep. Okay. So follow user handler. And I don't want the user data service anymore. What I want is the I follow data service. Follow data service. Although I guess I do need the user data service as well for this. Well, so let's just rewind there. I still need it there, which is fine. I follow data service. So I need both for the handler. Okay, so this will be follow data service, follow user. All right, so I've got two services in here, but potentially I can move that to the validator. Just move this check over to validator, because that's what it is, really. So that I can reduce the number of services that this class needs. So yeah, I might do that. Okay, and the data service itself. So I need a new thing called, go to program, and I didn't mention this on the stream, but I kind of tried to organize this program a little better, because this was getting a very long file. It's still a long file, but a very long main. So notice here I've got some extension methods that I made myself for Swagger, for authentication, for service dependencies. That's where we're going to go for here. So I've got, basically I need to create another another interface like this. So public interface, I conduit, not users, but follows collection provider. I name collection provider. And I'll move this into class. This is just a marker interface. It doesn't do anything itself. And then I'll need to add that. So we'll do another bucket, add scope. Same scope name as before, but now we're doing add collection. I conduit follows. And so then in config manager, say follows collection name. So I've got a new collection here. So this is follows collection name. So I'll call it follows. All right. And that needs to happen with other places as well, right here. Okay. And needs to happen in secrets too. So I need to take those off the screen. You see my amazing Couchbase logo while I'm doing this. Opening up the user secrets. Putting follows in there. Opening up the user secrets for the test project. Needs to go in there. And opening for the migrations project. Where's secrets? Secrets. Put it in there. Okay. All right, so there's that. So the secrets is basically just a local version of this file that has actual connection string values in it, actual passwords and stuff. And this will work if you're running it locally, right? But when I deploy this to GitHub workflows, and if I use it here locally to connect to Capella, I need to have real connection string values. So there we go. I've got those. Java is bigger than .NET on that background. I find that wholly unacceptable. LOL. What do you mean by the, on this background here? Java is bigger than .NET. Java, .NET. Well, I think the issue is that Java itself is a little bigger. Yeah, I'm with you there. And .NET, the casing isn't right either. But I didn't create this one originally. This is actually for a T-shirt design. Boo this man. Yeah, I actually have several T-shirts with this design on them. But yeah, unsubscribe. Lol, Java bigger than .NET lies. That's cool. Well, technically speaking, in the world of Couchbase, I think Java is actually the most used SDK by Couchbase users / customers. I think .NET is number 2 in the Couchbase world. I might even be .NET might be number 3 actually. So it's Java is big, Node is big, and .NET. And after that, it gets a little murkier. Like, we're not exactly sure. Some people think it's Ruby. Some people say PHP. Maybe Python is up there too. But that's the order in terms of actual Couchbase customers and users. For what that's worth. I'm trying to get the .NET one bigger. That's part of why this stream is helping to accomplish. Get more people to write some .NET with Couchbase. Not there's anything wrong with Java. Okay, so I've got this this new data service, so that needs to go here. Conduit follows collection provider. So that's what's going to be used by this data service to actually interact with Couchbase. And need to create a new migration. So this will be migration 3. Create collection for follows. But you can't C# with Java. Yeah, I think there was an old joke. Why do Java developers need glasses? Because they can't C#. I'd play Rimshot, but I know I think my bot's broken, so text Rimshot. Okay, migration, simple. I just need to create a collection of, collection name. We'll get to that. In scope name. And the reverse is simply delete.collection name in from scope name. Say, Matt, where are those values coming from? In the constructor, of course. But this will be a different name of the constructor, and it's not user's collection name. It's now, what do I call it? Follows collection name. Okay. And make this its own class. But I need to rename that file to 003. So that migration will be the third one. Creating a nice little collection to put my follows information. Speaking of which, maybe I should rename this to follows controller just to be consistent with the plurality. Follows controller, and it's a follow request, so we'll leave it with a singular there. Okay. Down to the data service. Maybe I should call this follows data service. Okay. So the actual keys are what are being passed in. So I don't need those. What I do want is I want to await. I want to get the collection equals await follows collection provider dot get collection. So now I'm in that collection. I need to actually put the followed user into the collection. So the follow key will equal the follower username follows. So this is a document. Let's say I'm mgroves and I want to follow napalm codes. This will be mgroves. This will be napalm codes. So this is the mgroves follows. This is the document that lists who mgroves is following. Okay. All this stuff I don't think I wanted to use. So this is kind of a bummer. GitHub Copilot not doing so great when it comes to actually constructing the data access. I didn't give it a lot of details, so I think it did its best. But if I had to get more details, I may as well just write it myself, right? At some point. Okay. So I want to do a set equals collection dot set. So this is a Couchbase extension to create a set of string. So string, nothing fancy there. And the key is going to be follow key. All right. And so then I can say set dot add the user to follow. And there we go. So I guess the question is set going to create the document for me if it doesn't exist? That's a good question. Don't know. We'll find out, I guess. All right. Follow user handler. So let's go back. We got everything in place. Here's the endpoint. Gets the username. Let me just make sure that's following the spec. Endpoints. Follow is API profiles. What no? API profiles username follow. API profiles username follow. Okay. Yep. Username. Getting the username from the authorized user. Making a request. I want to follow this user as the current user. Okay. Handler. I don't have validation yet. We'll get there. Get that user. Make sure they exist. Make sure the user to follow actually exists. This will be the follow user. Return the profile. Okay. Data service. User to follow username. Get the collection. Construct the key. Construct a set, and then add to the set. Easy peasy. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and one thing I need to change, and this needs to come off the screen as well. One thing I didn't change when I moved over to this new instance of Capella, Couchbase Capella, is the migrate batch file. So let me just show, I'm going to blank the screen here for a second. I'm still here. I'm not taking a break. I just want to edit this off. Yeah, I was afraid it was going to appear on the screen. So I need to get those connection strings in that batch file. So where is the secrets? There's copy and paste from secrets. It's basically the same username, different password, same bucket. Well, those aren't the right secrets. Secrets. There we go. Connection string. Okay, and while I'm at it here, I might want to change the secrets of this web project because they are not matching. There we go. Secrets gone off the screen. So I am back. You missed all the secrets. Sorry. It's probably fine actually because it's a allow list for the IP. So even if you had the password, you still couldn't connect. But that may change. So I don't want to take any risks with that. Okay. So I'll go ahead and open up a console here. You know, I'll just use a Windows terminal. Proj, real, and then Conduit. I've got all these batch files, so let's migrate up. Migreg. Oh, it's still in debug mode. That's not good, but not a big deal. And let's just make sure that it's creating those structures for me in Capella. Oh, authentication error. Here's Capella, there's my buckets, there's nothing in there. Well, default, okay, nothing in there. What didn't it like? Can't authenticate. Did I not change the user secrets correctly? Secrets. Those look, oh, that's on the wrong bucket. I have the integration tests, I think. Let me just double check here. Yep, I think it's the wrong bucket. I had the name for the wrong bucket in there, so let's try it again. Migrate up. Why are you failing? You should be pulling from user secrets. Why aren't you? Add user secrets. Yeah, user secrets. Oh, it's still, oh gosh, it's the wrong username as well. Wow. Okay. I just cannot get myself together today. All right, migrate up. Now it's going to work, right? Come on. Oh. So maybe I do have to attach the debugger after all. It's a good thing it is debugging. So I can take this off screen because it could be sensitive information. Let's start here. I want it to go to a Where's it actually? Oh yeah, it's in my. Let me just check my migrate up again. Okay, going off screen because sensitive information. That all looks correct on there. So what is your deal? What is your deal? What am I? Oh, hey, Napalm, thanks for stopping by. Have a good weekend. TBD Gamer, hey, it's been a long time. TBD Gamer, welcome back. Looks like you still got moderator status. Glad you're here. What have you been up to these days? So why is it passing the wrong credentials to... Well, I'm just going to attach the debugger. I can't show you this because it is potentially sensitive information. I'll just show you how I'm attaching here. So I'm going to the NoSQL migrator. Somewhere, there it is, attached to that. So now I've attached, and now I will see. Oh. That's not good. Busy, busy, became a PHP developer. Hey, no reason to be sad about that. Nothing wrong with PHP. What is it that you don't like about PHP? There's nothing to be ashamed of. PHP runs possibly 90% of the internet. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. 90% of the web, I should say. So why isn't it able to connect? What am I doing wrong? I'm putting the wrong credentials somewhere. Let me just double check. I'm using the right credentials in the first place. So again, got to go off screen. Setting, no, well, connect, yeah. So is that the right connection string? Yep. And do I have SVC Conduit? Is that the user? Yep. Okay, so that's correct. So it's just not pulling something from the right place. That's all. Okay. Well. Oh, I don't think you need to see my Azure account. Probably nothing sensitive there, but I don't think you need to see it. User secrets. I shouldn't even be using user secrets. I should be using... Oh, the wrong password in there, too. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Try it again. Nope, same error. What on earth is going on? Maybe I just need to do a rebuild. Authentication error. What is your deal? Trying to find the .NET passion again. Saw your YouTube videos appearing. Someone trying to find your stream. PHP has evolved a lot, but I wasn't hired primarily as a developer. But they needed a developer, so I fallen into the role. Okay. I think that's probably the story of a lot of PHP developers. Frankly, I think maybe not anymore, but I think the most common route to PHP was, hey, I'm running a small business. I need a website. How do I create a website? Okay, I can put HTML. How do I create something dynamic on that website? Oh, I guess I'll just use this PHP because it's already installed and it's easy to drop a little PHP tag and then voila, PHP developer. Or they're in WordPress and like, oh, I need some sort of plugin. Let's code this up real quick. PHP. There you go. So what was, if you weren't hired as a developer, what were you hired as that they actually said, well, could you code something for us? It's possible that it's pulling user secrets from the web, which are also incorrect. From the web project, I mean. Rebuild. Migrate up. And... What am I doing wrong? Well, I suppose I'm just going to double check the actual user out there. It's not called a user. It's called a database access. this one right here. I suppose it's possible I might have copied a password wrong, so I'm going to recreate it. SVC, Conduit, and I'll just use the password that I have copied. This passes all the criteria. Yep, you Conduit access, you get all scopes, read and write. Okay, so there's the user. I'll give that a second or so to propagate before I try this again. Let me just double check all these secrets here. That's the right password. SVC Conduit is a user. Bucket is Conduit. Okay, with the web. Same password, SVC Conduit, Conduit bucket, correct connection string. Okay, everything looks good there. Unfortunately, they needed some experience on the engineering side, even though my PHP experience stopped in 2012 when I decided to focus on managing on .NET. So yeah, doing my best. You were hired as manager/architect with the expectation you needed to write some code, nothing business critical. So your expectation as an architect was code would be only a small part of the job. That's what it sounds like. Oh, gosh. So maybe just for the benefit of everyone getting bored by seeing the same error over and over again, maybe you could explain just in your own words, like what an architect does day to day if they don't write code. What are they doing? What's their primary work? What's your job description as an architect? While I try to stumble through figuring out this error, why it's not connecting. I'm going to have to open up my actual NoSQL migrator to set the proper breakpoint here. Migrator, let's see. I'm going to open this up in Writer. Yeah, so my expectations. Well, just for your expectations about architecting or just in general, what is your expectation for architecting? So this is a writer. I'm going to try to figure out where this is, what is the connection string that it's finding? Runner. Where is it first connect here? Yeah, right here. I want to set a breakpoint there. An architect should be looking at the application, figuring out how new and old pieces can live together, and trying to guide development teams to the best path of implementing solutions. Okay, so maybe you can give a concrete example of that sort of day-to-day. Like, what would you, just looking at the application every day, evaluating it every day? Like, what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to try and attach here in Writer, and I can't show this because it might be sensitive information. But let's see, I want to run, I want to attach to process. So you can see the Writer has a different attach to process screen, but basically the same thing. Yeah, I kind of like that searchable bit there. So it's a little quicker. So it's hopefully attached. Let's see what happens. Okay, so cannot authenticate the user. So I'm not hitting that breakpoint. That's just in tests. Where's that error coming from? Authentication error. Let's try this again. Attach to process. It's not there yet. Could actually run it. Attach to process. Oh, recently attached is nice. I kind of like the attach dialog in Writer a little better. I don't want to be attaching to processes, but it's nice. So, for example, if we implement a new payment system, okay? So, new payment system. You have an existing payment system, I assume, right? Let's say you have PayPal and you want to switch to, I don't know, you want to switch over to Square, just as an example. What does an architect do in that situation? This isn't helping. This is frustrating. Why isn't this doing what I want it to do? Let's try attaching this. What do we got here? Oh, we got a subscription from Aaron. Hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining. Thanks for subscribing. Glad you're here. Oftentimes, the current implementation, as to your point earlier, of PHP systems traditionally being put together to solve problems quickly, will not be a clean swap out. Okay? You've been trolling. I think you mean you've been lurking. You haven't been trolling. You've been lurking and trolling. Still not hitting a breakpoint. What is going on here with this authentication issue? What am I missing? Yep, so not a clean swap out. So then the architect's job in that situation is to what? To identify. The architect probably had a hand in choosing the new payment system, I would assume. And then your job is to identify, like, how do we go about implementing that? So what's the difference then between architect and, say, a project manager in terms of, from your point of view, TBD gamer? Where is it pulling secrets from? Or pulling this connection string from that's incorrect? You know, I'm going to go here and... Okay, I have suspicion that it's pulling it like a localhost connection string. So I'm going to go ahead and comment out this part here and see what happens. So I expect my role to be more on the lines of figuring out how a new system can integrate, provide the guidance on how the solution should be put in place. I may do some prototyping and examples of how to use a new system. Okay. So the prototyping examples would be examples of you coding, but you're not actually probably necessarily coding in the main code base. You're doing more of a, here's how you should interact with payment system, the new payment system. What on earth is going on here? It's more of a POC model. Proof of concept is what you're kind of doing there. yes, proof of concept stuff, so I at least know what's required and can best guide expected timelines for completion. So it seems like you would be working with the project manager, but you would be doing kind of more the technical side of things, the proof of concept, maybe the coding strategy, maybe setting forth some guidelines like, hey, you should follow patterns XYZ. Here's how you refactor existing, stuff like that. You might be doing code reviews, maybe pairing from time to time with the developers. So let me ask you this then. Let's say there's not some major rewrite or feature going on, which there's always something like that. But just day to day, maybe developers are fixing bugs, or they're already got their tickets, they're already working on those. So the architect has kind of done the big design work, the big decisions, the POCs and stuff like that up front. So what does an architect do day to day then? Are you going to pitch in and start helping the developers? Are you going to go to the next major initiative, the next major refactor or system change? Or, what sort of thing are you going to do there? Are you going to take more of a project manager role? Work on stuff like CI/CD. What kind of stuff would you do at that point? This is getting really annoying, this connection error here. And I can't set a breakpoint anywhere. Nothing seems to be hit. Let me just double check this file again. What am I doing wrong? Good gravy. This should be right. It was working before. I did change all the connection strings for localhost for a second, but I switched them all back. It's not pulling from tests, is it? I don't see why it would do that, but I'll just double check. There's a different set of secrets in the test project. Rebuild. Let's try again. I don't think this is going to make any difference. Nope. What am I working on? So, Aaron, I'm still working on the Conduit project. In this case, I'm working on the endpoint to follow one user to follow another user to get their articles to show up in the feed. And what I'm doing now is I'm creating a new collection to store all these follow documents. And so what I'm trying to do is get my migrations to actually create a new collection. Automated way to create a new collection for integration tests and deployment and so on. But my migration is not connecting to Capella. I don't know what the deal is. I believe the architects can always be there to help with the team's workload, consult on projects that aren't major projects but still require changes, help with making sure standards and practices are upheld, that sort of stuff. Where's the code for that at? For the migration? This is the migration code. Pretty simple. The actual NoSQL migrator is a separate project. The connection, yes. So the connection, I think that's the main issue, is that I thought there's a user secrets here in the migrations file. There's also user secrets in web. So what the migration base class is supposed to do is look for the web app settings, also look for environment variables, and look for user secrets. And it doesn't seem to be doing any of those things because it's pulling some sort of connection string from somewhere. At this point, I'm going to try just dumping it in the app settings file and, see. It's got to be pulling it from somewhere. It's the only place I think it could be pulling from. Yeah, I'm not using any environment variables locally. This is using app settings and secrets. Can you print out environment variables here being set? Well, maybe, but I've been trying to set breakpoints, and none of these breakpoints are getting hit. So I think that's not going to be printing out anything either. What on earth is it doing? So if I set a breakpoint here, for instance, do a clean. I keep doing a rebuild. I'll do a clean. Rebuild should do a clean too, but let's try it again. Yep, nothing. So if I set a breakpoint here, none of this is actually getting hit. When I attach, this isn't in release mode, is it? No, it's debug mode. So I migrate up, then I can attach. NoSQL migrator runner. Okay, so attached, then continue, and nothing. So calls that to be created. I'm not sure what that means. This is the base class of every migration, but it's not even getting to that point. Hey, Ralpher1, thank you for the follow. Glad you're here, Ralpher1. I'm trying to get this thing to work. I can't connect. I'm getting some connection errors. And we're also talking about the role of architects in projects. Something has to be reading the migration base and calling it. I don't think it's even getting that far. It's not getting to migrate base. I don't know where it's pulling the connection string info from. Let me just look at this again. It's, yeah, debug. So where is the main program code that starts the app? Something has to call this. Yes, you're right. You're right, Aaron. You're right. It is a executable. It's a command line utility. It's right here. Well, there's a batch file right here. Put on detail logging when you attach it is showing any signs of doing something. Yeah, I don't know. What do you mean by detailed logging? Is that like when I attach debugger, there's a certain checklist for detailed logging? Okay, so I'm getting a lot of comments here. I just need to slow down here and think this through a little bit. Turn on verbose. Yep, I'm aware. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open. Can I do a separate Visual Studio window? Because I want to actually close Conduit here. Yes, I know you would put a breakpoint at the start of the app. It's a separate executable right now, so I have to open a separate code base to do that. So that's what I'm doing at this point. It's all making sense now. It's very, very similar to, Fluent Migrator type of situation. So I'm going to try. I did this earlier with Writer, and it wasn't hitting any breakpoints. Debugger attach is always painful. Yeah, I don't want to do the debugger attach. I really don't. But don't know what else to do. I mean, this is a to-do item on NoSQL Migrator is add more verbose output, so I can try to figure out what's going on. PDB being generated, right? Well, this is in release mode right here. So that I thought I switched it to debug over in Writer. Maybe I didn't do that. Let's see, migrator. This is a migration command right here. Okay, this is all, okay, that's all Oakton stuff. Yes, I'm well aware that you need PDBs for debugging. runner. I need to find the connect, basically. Connect async right here. This is where it's connecting, and this is where I'm assuming, what's the error message again? There's an error connecting to Couchbase. So this is where I assume it's happening. So somewhere along here, the wrong connection string is being passed into this. So I need to take this off screen because it could show sensitive information. Hopefully if this works. And I'm going to migrate up, attach the process. It might have just been I didn't have it in debug mode, so let's find out. Okay, attached. Let's go. Loading symbols. Nothing. Okay. Let me just look at something here. So I've got NoSQL Migrator is actually in my path right here. This might be, yeah, there's no PDB for this. This is the one that I'm using. So this is the release executable. Maybe if I go ahead and do a debug build of this, or debug publish, I should say, maybe that will solve the issue. So over here, debug publish. And yeah, that's fine. Put it. No, I don't want release mode. No. Stop. Okay. New folder. Why is it still saying release? Is it because all releases are release mode by default? Okay. Proj, NoSQL Migrator. No, the runner is what I want. The runner bin debug. 7.0. Okay. So. Well, okay. Here's what I can do. Well, I take that, and instead of running the one in the path, I'll specify run the debug one. Then let's see what happens. So again, I'm not showing this on the screen because it's sensitive information in there, but let's go ahead and try it. Okay. Debug, attach to process. NoSQL Migrator. Okay, so hopefully attached. Continue. Hey, look at that. Okay. What is in there? It looks like the correct credentials are... Oh, wait a second. Okay. Oh my. All right. Wow. This is a weird one. This is a real weird one. Okay. So, let me just... I'm going to remove this credentials, and you'll soon see why. Yes, this is a real good one. If I think what's going on is what's going on. So let me redact some of this here. Okay, and maybe you can guess just to help me confirm this. So here we go. Ignore this part up here. This is the connection string. Redacted part of it. Login. Password. Bucket name. So anything jumping out at you so far that might cause the issue? I'll give you a second to mull that over, because there is no way on earth I would have guessed this. Wow. Okay. Okay, so when I hit the breakpoints, here's what I expected to say. Oh, you're connecting to localhost or something. It's pulling a connection string from somewhere. It was actually pulling the correct connection string, the correct username, but this is not the password that I saw in the debug information. The password that I saw was that. Percent sign, percent sign was not there. So, somewhere along the way, I don't know if this is the command line or probably this command line. Actually, I think this R might have gone away too. This is some sort of parameter type of thing in PowerShell, right? Percent. So it just completely removed that from my string. Gosh, okay. So Aaron says it's encoded. I think the problem is this is not encoded, right? This is, it's kind of has a mind of its own. So let me just show you this again. And I don't think this is a major issue. Because I'm going to change these credentials. Oops. No SQL migrator. Okay. So I'll attach. Let it fly. Okay. Username. SVC Conduit. Password. Might be hard for you to see. But yeah, so the percent is missing from that. So somewhere along the way, this is possibly because I'm using Octane. Maybe Octane does something with it, or just PowerShell by itself strips out the percentage. So what's up with that? Is there a way to tell PowerShell, I guess, not to do that? Don't strip this out, PowerShell. I'm going to go to ChatGPT to help with this. Let me erase some of these old conversations. Okay. Yeah, escape character. Does PowerShell strip out percentages from arguments? For instance, my command.exe / ABCD RFG, whatever. Let's just see what it has to say. Does not automatically strip out percentage symbols from arguments. However, because it's a reserved character in some command line environments, you might sometimes have trouble. Okay. So it could be Octane stripping it out. Okay, we could just escape it. Doubling the percent sign. Let's see if that works. I have to go back to my batch file. And I'm going to change this password no matter what, obviously. So I doubled the percent sign, and there you go. Oh, obnoxious. So obnoxious. Okay. Well, now that you've seen the password, I need to go and change it. I'm not going to use percent signs this time. Wow. That's a wild one. So the problem wasn't really in my code, I don't think. Gosh. Wait, data tool, what is this? Settings, connect. Oh, you just saw my string. Hopefully that's not a problem. Okay, let me get this off the screen. Database access. So I'm going to get rid of SVC Conduit, delete. There we go. Okay, great. Database access, SVC Conduit, password. Instead of percent, let's use a different character. And I'll change up the rest of the string as well. Okay. Buckets, go read, write. Okay, there we go. Okay. We're all good now. I got to go back and I figured out that's the important part. If you say so. Okay, user secrets, change the password. Again, it's kind of annoying to do password stuff on the stream because it's just so, I can't show it. Change this to user secrets as well. User secrets. Okay. I'll have to roll back those app settings files too before I commit. Alrighty, so then I'll change this to not use the debug version anymore, just use the release version. Well, locally, since I'm doing the development of both of these tools, probably makes sense to keep using the debug version, but whatever. Okay, and actually, while I was in Capella, this should have the stuff in it now. I want data tools, buckets. So running the migrator again, not going to do anything. So there we go. Follows and users collections and the migrate history doc. It's all there. So there we go. That worked. That's good. Great. Wonderful. Terrific. Off we go. Okay. And I meant to see if GitHub Copilot would write this migration for me, but I forgot that. But historically, it's done a great job at writing those migration classes. Love a win on a Friday. I don't know if I call this a win, but got through it. Learned something kind of new, I guess. I might have to do some testing to isolate. Is it Oakton that's doing that? Is it PowerShell? Is it whatever else? Yeah, that's doing that. So then I can figure out how to avoid that in the future. I learned something that's a win. Okay, if you say so. All right. So now, where were we? Get rid of this. Oh, crap. You just saw my password again. Well, gotta change that one. That was my mistake. SVC Conduit. Okay, changing the password again. Conduit. File read and write. There we go. Created. Okay. No last pass. I don't want to store that one. Don't worry about the internet is honest. It's fine. Yeah, except this is all re-recorded. So I know you all wouldn't probably do anything with it, and you really can't because, like I said before, it's on an allow list of IP addresses. So even if you had that password, you couldn't connect to it right now. But that may change in the future, so I just want to be careful throwing out password information. And of course, I'm not reusing passwords for this stuff ever. And you have to have a certain amount of strength in your password for Capella. So it's not like I could just use like administrator password like I do locally all the time. Okay, so I changed it, and now I'm going to get rid of that off the notepad so you can't see it. Okay, gosh. All right, where was I? Fluent Validator class. Let's do that. And let's have GitHub Copilot do it. And where it needs to go is we're in the new slice now, the follow slice. And it's in handler. So what I want to do is I'm going to ask Copilot, create a Fluent Validation class to validate follow user request, making sure that the the user to follow is not null or empty, and to check the database to make sure that user actually exists. Use the user data service. do this. Yes, Copilot has been very impressive. I think it's because it has access to the whole code base. So it can kind of look at what I've already written and make some implications based on that. So let's see how well it's done here with a validator. So I'm just going to straight up copy and paste this blindly into, it goes here, right? So follow user request validator. Just paste that right in there. So this should be follow user request validator. I guess I didn't specify that. Okay. Interesting. So this is good. A good start right here. But it's not checking to see if it's null or if it's actually allowed. So rule 4 xx dot user to follow not empty with message user to follow must be is required. Username is required. Just go with that. Okay, and this one is user to follow does not exist. So we could say user does not exist. Okay, and so now this is using this user data service, which it very impressively figured out the constructor injection for me. Retran in the Netherlands. Hey, thank you for stopping in. I'm glad you're here. First time in the chat. Glad to see you. Have you already tried ReSharper's AI? I have not. I saw, I'm on the JetBrains newsletter list or whatever, and I saw that that's coming. It's in a preview right now, I believe. It's called the AI Assistant. It's going to be available in ReSharper and in all the IntelliJ products, from what I can tell. I do want to try it, but I have not tried it yet. I got to spend some time to see, do I have the right version of ReSharper? Do I need to get on the preview track for that? That sort of thing. But I definitely want to add that to my list of these different LLMs that I'm using. So I'm using GitHub Copilot, which I don't think is available in ReSharper or IntelliJ yet, at least not directly. It might be, I'm not sure. I'm using ChatGPT, which is, of course, completely browser-based. There's nothing special about it. It's just a browser window here. I tried using Bard at the beginning, but I did not like Bard at all. Oh, so it's in Writer? Is it in Writer like preview version, or is it in Writer just in general? Oh, you're talking about GitHub Copilot. Or are you talking about AI System? Yeah, if it's in Writer, I haven't got that quite to work just yet, so I definitely want to try that as well. Copilot, yes. Nope, sorry, it's okay. There's some latency between when I see chat and when you see my response. So, okay, get user by username. I don't know why it thinks a token needs to be passed in. Oh, cancellation token, that's why. Okay, I probably should put cancellation token in there. And so it's, so it is using this null or empty here. That's the wrong place. GitHub Copilot, you're supposed to put that as a rule. So you got that one wrong, Copilot. Technically it would work, but that's not going to be ideal. Now what is this? Convert from, oh, maybe it does need cancellation token. Okay, so Fluent Validator needs that. So this is going to get user by username. Now what is that actually doing? It's just doing a key lookup, which is fine. But it's not success I'm looking for. It's not found. So I want it to not equal not found, basically. Or we could say is okay, which is not exactly the same thing as found, but that should work. So this is doing some validation to make sure the username specified is there and the user actually exists. And when I do that, then I can get rid of, whoops, I get rid of this part right here. Just leave that to the validation. So I can assume at this point this is a completely valid request for a user that exists and go ahead and follow them. I need to put some validation checking code in here. Let's see if GitHub Copilot can do that. add some code to handle to let's say add code. Let's say check run validations of, let's pin this, in the handle method of follow user handler. Let's see what it does, because I've done this several times in the project, so let's see if it comes up with the same sort of thing. Validate and throw async. Very interesting. Not sure why it decided to do that. It's instantiating the validator itself. So, okay. Should probably, that's not the way I've done it. That would work, but that, remember, new is glue, so I don't want to use the new too much in the handle method. This needs to add the validator, add follow user quest validator as a dependency of follow user handler via constructor. This is really taking more time than necessary, but okay. So now it's still doing this validate and throw async. I don't want it to throw, though. That's the thing. So really, this is not saving any sort of time or typing at this point. But yes, need to add the validator as part of that. Okay, and then I'll just do a quick copy and paste from elsewhere. Or I do something similar. Nope, not there. That's the worst place. Right here. This bit of code right here. And, oh, I call this validator. In most cases, keep it like that. Should only be one validator per handler, roughly. It's not login result, it's follow user result. Why are there no validation errors on user results? There we go. And that looks good to me. Got to run. Good luck with coding. Thank you, Aaron. I will see you. Make sure to follow Aaron. I'll give you a shout out. My bot is broken right now. But make sure to follow Aaron Biozal. He's streaming some Swift and LLM stuff. So if you're into mobile, definitely give him a follow, Biozal. And I usually go in there and hang out as well when he's streaming, if I've got time to while he's streaming. So go check that out. Give him a quick follow. Alrighty. Okay. Just realized a problem with this validation. I need the user to follow his information anyway. So there's no point in pulling it twice. So let's go back to what it was. I can still leave the validator in there. Followed. Have a good one, Biozell. Yeah, thank you, TBD Gamer. I appreciate that. So don't need to check and then check again. So let's just leave that. Just leave the one validation to make sure it's actually something was specified. That's completely reasonable. Don't need a data service to do that. It's just a really, really simple validator. Make sure it's there. Make sure username is there. But yeah, I do need to make sure the user follows, so I can still return a user not found, and then get that information to build up the profile. So forgot about that. Validator shouldn't be doing that stuff. It doesn't need to do with that in this case. Okay. All right, so I'd say it did a okay job at this as well. I'm going to give it 2 minuses though. Create migration. I didn't do. Is there an undecided? What's a good emoji to convey undecided? What's a good emoji to convey undecided? I love using ChatGPT to help me with emojis. It does a really good job at it. If it's working today. Thinking face. Oh, there you go. Oh, shrug emoji. Oh, that's good too. We'll put shrug in there. Shrug male symbol. Okay, whatever. Don't know. Okay. Let's try unit test now. Let's see how well it does for unit tests. So I want to do a unit test. Write a unit test of, this is follow user handler handle method using mock when appropriate. Use mock for the data service. Uses mock for the data services. Let's see what it comes up with. So over here, while it's working, we'll go ahead and create a new folder for follows. And create another folder for handlers. And create one for follow user handler tests. Okay, are you done yet? Go Copilot. Look at all this stuff. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's just copy these over and see what happens. So gave us some namespace. Don't want that or need that. Okay, all this stuff that doesn't actually exist. View models. Okay, so it's doing quite a lot of arranging here. Handle should invoke follow service when user exists. Handle should fail validation when request is invalid. Handle should return user not found when user follow does not exist. So there's a pretty good identification of which tests to actually create. So let's take these one by one and just kind of walk through and see what happened. How far can we get with Copilot here and testing? Even create a range act assert for me, so that's nice. Okay, so the main act is a handle. The request here is a request with, now what is wrong with this? Is read only. So it's not using the constructor for that. So I got that wrong, which you'd think that would be something it could get right, no problem, because well, these are set, these are get only. So you'd think it understand, not you can't set these, but apparently it doesn't. So let me just make these a little more descriptive here. User to follow and user doing the following. Okay. The expected profile is that's what we expect the result to be. Okay. It's got these mocks. I would probably put those in the setup if it was me. Sync task setup. I didn't ask you to mock the validator though. I really don't necessarily want to mock the validator. So let's just get rid of that. Okay, move these setups here, just up here. Those might not be the right thing to do, but let's go ahead and rename these to underscore, because we're going to make these into privates. Okay, so get user by username. Yeah, so these mocks should probably exist down here. Okay. So get used by username. Returns async. What doesn't it like about that? Because data result is not. It says conduit user. That's odd. It's definitely called user. And it's data service result. Interesting that I got the names wrong there. It's a little confusing. A little confused, I should say. Data service result. That also is the same thing. So it's, again, kind of ignoring the constructor here. So data result equals, and again, it's new conduit user, but no, it should be user. And status is okay. What does verifiable mean? I don't know what that means. What does verifiable mean? Meaning that a call to verify. We'll check. Okay. Interesting. Okay, I don't really need to go that far. I don't necessarily need to check that. But username. So this is going to return user to follow. This should also be user to follow. Okay, and now the follow data service is mocking out this. User to follow, following username. That looks good. Yeah, returns task. Doesn't actually need to do anything, just needs to get called. We'll actually test that in the integration test. Handler. So, once again, this probably belongs up here. Because I'm going to use that again. New validator. It's okay passing in the real validator. I don't see a problem with that. Okay, and then make this underscore handler. Like so. So there's the act. Assert. It didn't put anything in there like result is not null. It seems to favor the assert r equals, which I'm not a fan of. I like the assert that, but we can kind of rewrite those. Assert that. In fact, why don't we have it rewrite those for us? Rewrite these assertions to use assert that. Thank you. Okay, that's, I think, perfect. Get rid of that. So let's run this test. Okay, we got ourselves expected empty string, but was null. What? Maybe I should put something in there like a real, because that's a little more interesting to tell me what's going on. So, image.jpg. Okay. Let me wrap that around, please. There we go. Nope. Do like this. Okay. So it doesn't seem to be... Okay. That's because it's not returning this. It's not returning that stuff here. So, yeah, user to follow. Yeah. So this needs to have all this same stuff here. The following is not in there. Let's just return this. And so this is still the expectation. This is arrange what profile is expected to be returned. Arrange the user that will be in the database. That does exist. Okay. Try it again. Should probably copy the one to the other. Yeah. So, username. This is just so there's, if I change one in the future, it's not going to screw everything up. They should match. This is kind of a happy path test. So it's totally okay if they match. Pass. Okay. One down. I'd say Copilot helped a small bit there. It wrote a lot of the unit test boilerplate sort of thing. But I still had to do a lot of work on that. That's okay. It helped a little bit. And it helped with rewriting those asserts, which, of course, it created in the first place. All right, should fail validation when request is invalid. So it's creating a user request, but it's not actually giving it anything invalid. So user to follow, username. Call this invalid username. And make that test case. So both empty string and null. Okay. And invalid username and the following username doesn't matter. Expected validation errors. That's interesting. So it's just kind of, this is where it's mocking out the validator to kind of verify that. So this is a little bit too low level of a test, I think. So we already have those mocks from earlier. And we already have the handler from earlier, so we can get rid of that. Handler. Okay. And we got this collection assert stuff. Get rid of that. That's interesting. So the... Okay, I want to instead assert that there's one error in the result validation errors, and that it has a certain error message of username is required. Okay, that looks more like it. We're going to assert also, I don't know why I do this. This is just kind of a, maybe I don't need to do this, but I always like to put that into place. So we're asserting that the count is 1, and in this case, it's just saying, which is fine, username is required. Is that correct? Error message, follow user request validator. Yeah, username is required. Okay. So this is actually 2 tests here, technically speaking. Those are both passing. Good. Okay, and now when user does not exist, so that's also a good test. So it did a really good job identifying which unit tests to create. It didn't do such a great job actually writing the unit tests, but this is actually a pretty useful function to say, here's the test you should write. So it might be better to say, write unit tests for, or what unit test should I write for this code? That might be a better use of Copilot here. Okay, so user is not found. So this is probably a similar test or similar range to this one, right? This request at least. Okay, and this is going to be user that doesn't exist. User that doesn't exist. Get rid of all these mocks. Get rid of the handler. We do need to change the range, however, because what this needs to return is that it not going to return a user, but it's going to return a not found. Assert true user not found. Okay. And I could ask it to rewrite this, but I want to just assert .that. Result.user.not.found is true. And of course, my good old standby of result is not null. Okay, this is going to pass. It is. Okay, well there we go. So I got 3 unit tests. Now let's go back and do a quick review here of the actual handler. Is there anything that GitHub Copilot missed in terms of other tests I should be writing? So I tested the validation. There's only the one. Whoa, got a little blurry there. There's only the one condition. It's got to be null or can't be null or empty. We tested to make sure the user actually exists. That's kind of a branch there. And we tested happy path. There's really only 3 things I could test in this case. I could also test, I guess, if this threw an exception or something, but that might be a little much. We'll maybe come to that in the future if we need it. So that's pretty good. It identified 3 different tests that should be created. Okay, now it's time for, I think, the true test. So I want to give this one a check for sure. Yes. Create a unit test. Make a note. Especially good at determining which tests to write. Let's go to integration now and see what it comes up with. Write an integration test for, what is it? Follow user request? Follow user handler handle method that uses as a base class, right? I want to tell it about the base class, so it knows to at least use that Couchbase integration test that uses Couchbase integration test as a base class. All right, let's see what happens. That is pretty slim there. I think it's going to be wrong for a couple reasons, but let's again, it might be useful if I gave it more detail, but create a new folder and we'll call it follows, right? Follows. And create a new folder in there. Handlers. Yep, and create a new class. Whoops. Create a new class in there called follow user handler tests. This is a test fixture. Okay. Okay, what is this? Get mocked user service. What in the world is that? Okay, yeah, I think this completely botched this test. It created one test, which is all I want to create for integration. But other than that, this did, I don't know what it's doing. It should not be using mocks in integration test, and that's my opinion, I guess. And it used this as a base class, but didn't actually use it anywhere. It just kind of threw it on there. So, yeah, not so good with this one. So I can already say, what's a good emoji for fail? X? I'll just do an X. Not so good at that. Okay, so let's, still needs to be written though. So we'll do a base setup. And I do need to, whoops, copied a little too much there. This should be async task. So I do need to do that integration test, yes. I don't care about users though. All I really care about for this one is follows. I'll call this one follows. Okay. And then let's go back over here. So I need to first arrange the, yeah, I'm just going to get rid of all of this because it's pretty useless. Arrange the, not users collection, but follows collection provider, most likely, because if I get to my act, it's going to be a weight of handler. Where'd handler come from? Oh, they created up here for me. Right. Okay. Handler dot handle request. Yes, this actually needs to be instantiated. Handler equals new. Yep. So user data service. Could do that up here. Oh, this does need user's data service as well. So I need both of them, in fact. Users. Okay. Need both of them. Users collection provider. Okay, so this goes users and then follows, and I can actually, again, just pull in the real validator, no problem there. What's your issue? Cannot convert. Oh, wait a second. Follows data service. Yeah, okay. So this needs to be new user data service with the users collection provider. And also it takes an auth service. Yeah. So I basically have to do my own be my own IOC container here. Okay, so that's that, and then new follows data service, which takes in that, and then the validator. Okay. Yeah, it's annoying to have to do this all by hand, but the alternative is, I think, just as annoying to create a IOC container. If this is a lot more complex graph, it might be worth it, but this is pretty simple. Okay. Request, cancellation token none. Okay. So I don't need to do that there. It's already being done up there. I do need to create a request. Okay, and the user to follow. So the user to follow has to actually exist too, which is fine. Get random file name. User to follow. That's a bit long for username, I guess. Okay, and user doing the following. Say user follower. How's that? Okay. User to follow, user follower, and then assert. This is going to be similar to the other test from before, but we can assert that result is not null. Assert that result dot profile dot username is equal to user to follow. And we can test the other stuff as well, but still need to do some more arranging here, actually. So I need to put some users into the database to begin with. And I also need to assert that that the following document exists and has the user to follow in it. So this is where integration tests can get a little dicey, is where I actually have to touch the database directly in the test, which is not a problem. So collection equals, we get the actual collection. So that's where these should be private methods as well. or private fields, I guess. Because I need to use those directly. User collections provider. Let's call this user collection. Get collection async. So I need to put in a user. So put in user 1. Awaits user collection. Insert user to follow. New user. So bio equals. This is the user to follow. I love being followed. Email is followed at example.net. And do I need anything else? I just need username. No, I got username in there. Don't really care about anything else. Okay, and we put another user in. Insert user follower. Equals. I love following users. Email equals follower at example.net. Okay, so that puts them in there. And then I say go ahead and follow. So we're not testing whether or not I can put users in the database. I want to test the follow part. That's what's under test, is this. So the request, arrange request to follow, and I'll put, yeah, that's good. Okay, and now I need to actually get the following document directly from database. So that's going to be follow collection. So awaits follows collection dot get collection async. And so the follow document is follow collection, and we're going to get, and that is going to be the combination of user follower colon colon, and what did I say? Was it follows? Follows. There we go. Follows. Okay. And so, once we have that, to assert that follow result dot. So this throws an exception, right? Can I do I'll try? Yeah, I'll do that instead. So follow result dot exists. It's important to know this is true. And assert that, whoa, follow results dot content as, and it is it's a set, right? So I can go back to using set. Follow set equals. How do I want to structure this? Follow collection dot set string of let's get this, let's pull this out. Follow doc ID. I'm going to reuse this. Okay, set string follow doc ID dot contains the user to follow is true. Okay, that's a little complicated, but what I'm doing here, let's go through this step by step. I'm going to invent 2 new users, put them into the database. So to get the collection to do that, insert them in the database, just 2 users. One's going to follow the other. Then I say, okay, here's my follow request. User to follow is going to be followed by user follower. Do the handler. The handler is going to actually be the one doing that work. It's going to call down the database, etc. Then, before I start my assertions, I need to then pull that document that hopefully this is created, pull that directly out of the database. So I have to do the follow collection for that. Get the doc ID. It's always going to be the follower : follows, and try to get that out of the database. So then we got to assert that the result's not null, that the profile is equal to the user being followed, that the new follow document actually exists, and that it contains the user to follow. So it should only be one record in there, but that should be what exists. Okay, what's going on here? All this extra stuff. Setup fixture. I don't know what that is. Okay. There's just some extra left over from Copilot. So I think we're ready to go. I can at least try it. See what happens. Are we running? What's going on here? Hello, Visual Studio. / resharper. Whoever's running this. Let's go. Stuck. Locked up. Oh. I know how you feel, Visual Studio. So last night, played last softball game of the season. It was a playoff game. And, softball's, for me anyway, where I usually play catcher. It's not terribly physically involved. But I did have to run the bases after I had an at-bat. So I was kind of tired. And after that I got home and I decided, well, I need to mow the grass. We lost the game, actually. If we didn't lose the game, I would have probably not had time to do this. But I decided to mow the grass. And that involves the weed whacker, the leaf blower, the riding mower, and the push mower. All need to be used. And then I decided the pool area needed to be cleaned. My wife teaches swim lessons, and it was getting a little ugly. So I decided to clean the pool area and clean the pool. It needed to be vacuumed. So I did all that last night, and I didn't get done until 10 p.m. And I was exhausted. And yeah, I'm still pretty tired. But I love coding, so I decided that it's worth it to get up and get down to the computer, turn on the camera, and get coding again. But now Visual Studio doesn't agree with me. It says, no, I'm not responding. I'm tired. Quit asking me to do stuff. Is your league ASA or USSSA? I don't know. This is my first time playing in a softball league. I think it's USSSA. But I think the umpires had a different acronym on their shirt. Like NASA or something like, not NASA, no, something like that. It is not co-ed, this is a men's league. I had a really terrible game. I went 0 for 2 and an error as catcher. Really bad job. Not my best game at all. I had a game where my best game I think was 2 for 3. A couple of nice singles. But I struck out. No, I struck out and I had a fielder's choice. And there was a pop-up that I should have got as a catcher, but I just let it drop. I botched it. So, but it wasn't, it was pretty much a blowout. It was a very good team we were facing. They were hitting us like crazy. Oh, Visual Studio, what is going on? Oh, I'll take a quick nap. Well, Visual Studio decides what it wants to do. But I could not believe I had the energy after the softball game to go and do 2 hours of yard work. But I did it. So my wife teaches lessons in the morning, so I wanted the pool to be clean for her customers. And also our yard fertilizer company is coming out today. Just want to make sure the whole yard was mowed before they came out. Grass is looking real good this year. Lots of rain this summer. Lots of rain. Nice and green. Oh, I'm going to shut this down. Not responding. Close the program. I don't need you to report it, but okay. Someone's knocking at the door. They don't realize that I'm streaming live, and they probably don't want to be on camera. Oh, it's my son. Good job. Where was it?
In a random pair of shorts I found in the living room.
Didn't I say to look in your pockets?
I just found
All right.
pair of shorts.
All right, get out of here. Oh, it's my son. So he just got back from a trip to Florida, and I gave him a credit card to take with him in case of emergencies, and I wanted it back since he's now back, and he couldn't find it. He's been looking all day yesterday, and he finally found it today. So that's why he insisted on busting in and giving it to me. So, okay. Visual Studio is got this spinner going here. What's your deal? Still loading, still doing something, still thinking. Come on, Visual Studio. Okay, there we go. I want to run this test. Authentication. Not again. Okay. This is probably, I didn't update the secrets in test here. Well, this should be a separate bucket, right? That might be the issue. So sign on in here. Yeah. So this needs to be a, no, not a database. It needs to be another, wait. This does not need to be its own cluster. Get rid of that. That's just a waste. Okay. Conduits. Buckets. Oh, I already got one. It's already there. But I'm pretty sure, I'm showing this, this is off screen again. We're spending too much time on user secrets today. That this needs to be conduit integration test. It needs to be a different user for this. So take this off screen. Database access. Here we go. I've got one, but it's probably not the right password. You know what? Is it? Okay. Delete. We're going to add another one here. We're going to make sure there's no percentages in it, in that password. No percentages. I don't think it's going to matter in this case, but okay. That's going to be the password I use for that. And keep that. Now you're saying, why create a separate login just for integration tests? Well, the reason is I want the integration test to only be using conduit integration test bucket, and I don't want it to have access to the other one. So this accomplishes both those things. So this is, you can kind of think of this as like this is maybe the production, and maybe this is the test or QA or something, whatever you want to think of it as. Okay, so just get a second to propagate, close down the secrets over there, back over here. Let's try it again. Should take longer to run. Is it just not propagated yet? Do I got to give it some more time? Let me just make sure I didn't screw up the secrets. Conduit integration tests. Conduit integration tests. Oh, I didn't give it the right user. I don't want to call it that. I'm just not thinking straight. SVC, Conduit, integration tests. There's the same password. Integration tests, all scopes, read and write. And I'm going to copy this over to my secrets. Secrets. Okay. Now we should be set. Give another couple seconds here to propagate. So what y'all doing this weekend? Anything interesting? I'm actually taking my... Is this Saturday or is that next Saturday? Yeah. Taking my son down to visit Ohio University for his first college visit. It's a little early for him. He's going to be a sophomore, but my niece is going for her college visit. So I figured let's tag along. I don't know if OU is going to be the right fit for Matthew, but it's good to get this process started, get his feet wet, see what he thinks. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow, bright and early. What are you all up to this weekend? Anything fun? Come on. Looks like it's connecting. That's good. Oh. We got a failed test. Expected something but was null. So it's not returning the profile username. Let's go look at that. Username should be coming from the request. The profile. Wait, what? Wait a second. Wait. What? What's happening? Am I using the wrong... Why am I in Git profile handler tests? What in tarnation? Okay. Okay. I don't know how I got messed up there. All right. Username is coming from... Okay. So, yeah. It's not ever going to return something because, again, it's the key. So it's not data result. It should be just coming from the request user to follow. Okay, there we go. So this test found something. That's good. That's not the main reason to write these kind of tests, but it's helpful side effect, I guess. Okay, now we got something else weird. This looks like I might have missed an async somewhere. What in the world? Expected true, but was blah, blah, blah. Okay. Contains, is this because it's async? Is there a version of that that's async? Or do I need to do this? That's probably what I need to do. Yep. That's probably it. So that's just a mistake in my test writing. But seems good. Seems good so far. Okay, one more thing I want to do is I just want to see this in the database. So I'm going to set a breakpoint so it's not doing a cleanup just yet. Oh, got some little breakpoints in there. Because I want to see what it looks like, just to make sure. Well, I want to go this right here. That it's what I want. Data tools is what I want. That's what I expect to be in there. So there it is. So there's the follows. So this is everybody that this user, piprigzgixc.vet, is following, and that is so far just one person. So that's great. That's exactly what I want. And we'll let this test finish and clean up. Because one of the things it doesn't clean up is it'll just roll back everything. So you see that collections are gone. So that's great. So I got, we got all kinds of good stuff here finished up. I think, go back to, where was my little Kanban? Okay. So I think we're good there. I just need to add some documentation. Probably should try this out locally as well. Just to make sure everything is working from top to bottom. So let's go ahead and execute. Huh? Oh. I want this to, when I execute, it's going to be a single startup project of the web. Something I haven't got around to just yet because I have those benchmarks in there. So thorough. Yeah. Well, you know, we're talking real world. I want it to be real world. What? Aha. See, here's the issue. I tried to run this locally. This is something I didn't do. I totally forgot. Is I need to add the data service that I added. So I follow data service. See, I wouldn't have caught that if I didn't run this just as the full website locally. So there we go. So you see a new endpoint here, follow a user, username of the user to be followed. So let's just go through and do the whole thing, I guess. We'll register a new user. Let's try it out. Okay. We're going to register TBD Gamer as a new user. tbdgamer at example.net. And your password is going to be my super strong password 1. Bang. And execute. Okay, and there we go. So now I have JWT for you. So I'll go ahead and authorize you with JWT. How to know your password? Lucky guess. Okay, so now I can get the current user, and it should be TBD Gamer. And there we go. That's working. I'm going to make changes to you. Let's try changing your bio to I like balloons. Okay. So that's your updated bio. Let's get a profile for TBD Gamer. There we go. TBD Gamer, I like balloons. No image yet, and not following. So now I am going to create another user. Cancel, try it out. M. Groves. Matt. Also has the same exact password, just by coincidence. Okay, and now TBD Gamer is going to follow M. Groves. And there's M. Groves' profile. Nothing much there, but there you go. So that's great. That works. Beautiful. And it's documented enough, I think. GitHub Copilot did this stuff for me. And I added a little string there. I think GitHub Copilot did most of that. It added this Conduit spec link, which is exactly what I wanted. And there we go. I think so. It saved us some time with documentation, I think, for sure. So follow user is done. Well, wait, not yet. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Speaking of being thorough, we have to commit. An integration test are going to run next. On the CI. So we'll check all of these. And it is number 11. Following user endpoint. So look at all this stuff. Migrate up. I don't want to commit that. Let me just double check that. Yeah, I thought that was on my ignore list. Okay, I'm going to have to go off the screen for a second. Could be something in there. Oh, I already committed that by mistake? Gosh. That's bad. That should be on the ignore. Why can't I add it to ignore here? Well, it looks like I had the credentials already checked in GitHub. Yikers. Okay. Not a big deal, because that was for a trial account, which is now gone. So I need to make sure that I add migrate up to ignore. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, yeah. Migrate up.bat. Just don't. Just don't. Okay, let's try this again. It's still there. Wow, there's usually a add to ignore. And I probably should go ahead and. Okay. Whoops. Isn't there a way in Git to say don't commit this, something like that? Like delete but keep local. That's what I want. Yes. Okay. Let's try this again. Okay. So that didn't seem to work anyway. Conduit slash. Oh, there it is, right there. Migrate up.bat. How's that? That's weird. Okay, well, whatever. That's good for you, I guess. There's the commit. And let's do a push. And so that will also run the integration tests against, in this case, Couchbase server, not Capella, because it's using the using a Docker image. So I don't know if I show this on the stream, but I actually split out the GitHub workflows into two different tests. And one is the container. This is going to be using Couchbase server Docker image to run the integration test. The other one is Capella, which I've actually disabled because I don't necessarily want to use Capella to run integration tests, on a regular basis. But I do want to keep that as an example. Like if you wanted to do that, this is how you would do it. And actually, the YAML for this, the GitHub workflow, is so much simpler than the container workflow. So there's some trade-offs involved there. That's why I wanted to keep one available, but I disabled it. So this should run. Hopefully it shouldn't break anything, because I didn't run all these tests locally either. I should probably do that. Just run the entire suite locally to make sure that nothing broke. So I'll go ahead and do that. Run the whole thing. Although this should be doing that as well. So this will just give me a little bit of heads up. Did I break something along the way? Probably didn't, but it's always a possibility. It's about lunchtime here, so I'm just about finished up, which is perfect timing. Assuming all these tests pass and everything's good. I made a lot of good progress today. And then now that following is implemented, I can go ahead and finish this get profile endpoint, because that has a dependency on being able to follow users. So integration test still running there. Swagger is done. And we got a fail. So what broke? Invalid migration. Collection name must be specified. Oh, yep. Yep. Up here. add a new collection. So I need to add that there as well. Follows, is that follows collection name? Is that what it's using? Yep. Yep. So that I'll add that into the. So this is a problem with the actual GitHub. But as far as I can tell, everything passed locally. So that's going to be the main issue. So I'll just commit that, and I got to add a new secret to go along with it. But otherwise, that feature is done and ready to go. So next time up on the stream will be a Friday. It'll be a week from today. I will finish up the Git profile endpoint now that we have some follow information to provide. And then we'll keep going. We got unfollow next. It should be very simple compared to follow because all the infrastructure's in place now. Then we'll get on to articles, a lot of stuff for articles, the listing and the feeding. That's probably the most interesting and important part of the application. We'll get to that. Then comments and tags, and then some miscellaneous stuff we'll have to just clean up at the end and try to run this against a real live front end. One other thing you should look for is myself and Laurent from Couchbase. We will be doing a kind of a retrospective series, I believe, where we, it's not so much coding, but we just kind of take a second to say, well, what architectural decisions have been made here, and how do we document those, and what are the trade-offs involved? So that can be a useful blueprint to other people creating applications in the future. So that's where we're going with this. I think I'll go ahead and finish up with a raid, see who's available to get raided. Not very many. We got Tim Boudreau here. Yeah, TBD Gamer, I'm glad you were here. Thanks for joining. Looks like he's doing a custom game engine, so that's who we're going to raid. Tim Boudet, hopefully that's how you say it. I'll see you over there in his channel, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you in 1 week for the next stream, and I hope you all have a great weekend.